Okay, welcome back, everyone, to Aligning with Success. I had a great opportunity to meet with our family in Quebec this past weekend. Angelica hosted an introductory event on Friday in Sherbrooke. That was our first, and I think the first success in Sherbrooke. Congratulations, Angelica, our host. And she was also my chauffeur, picking me up from the airport, 2-hour drive from the airport to Sherbrooke, and then another 2 hours to get from Sherbrooke to Laval, which was the event. We held a training event in Laval on Saturday. And I really, really got into the depth of the training that I've been doing over the last few weeks here with the PowerPoint that refers to the backward zigzag. I'm going to refer to it as the backward zigzag because that you'll know what I'm talking about when you see it. This famous backward zigzag. This is the zigzag that I've been using since 1993, 94. To help, actually, I think it was 94, to really process, to teach a process, to teach the science of Nikken, which, by the way, since I'm really crappy at promoting my own stuff, and I'm really good at promoting other people's stuff, let me take a second to promote my own stuff. This book, which predates most of the books that you've read on the subject, is called The Science of the Nikken Business. And it really is. It gives you not only the important salient things about building a large and substantial organization in this business, the core principles, it also weaves stories of real life experiences and launches that I had done as well with others. And how this came to be, this book, was I was traveling, and as I would travel from city to city on a tour, giving trainings like I did this weekend, I noted my drawings and the drawings that I would use on the whiteboard or the flip chart. Some of them I'd actually take the flip chart notes with me because there was a repetition to them. There was something that I was communicating that was always showing up in those diagrams, like the backward zigzag, to help flush out an idea. And so when I got back to Toronto after that tour, I decided to hold an event for silvers and above because I thought this is pretty advanced stuff. And I think it's really the kind of stuff that silvers need to know because they're the ones doing the launching. They're launching new people. So they need to be proficient at that. And because I had chronicled some amazing success stories, platinums that I was launching and so forth, or people that I launched to platinum, I thought, okay, so this is the proof of the pudding. I mean, the process works, and the evidence is setting every record in Nikken. So I held an event not far from my house here, actually, at the doctor's house, one of their rooms, and recorded it. It formed 2 video cassettes, and then I had them duplicated and I mailed them to my silvers so that they would have a copy of it and have the benefit, those that were not present at the meeting, to study it. That was video 1. I did it again, another tour, and that layered some more information, some more understanding. So did again, training, record the videos, sent the videos to my silvers, and did it one last time, again, across tour of here, there, and wherever. This time, the information that was flowing through me was choreographed into the next 2 video set. And so the book is actually broken down into timestamps and titles of the sections as the videos were titled. The first one, let's see, what's the first one called? It's called What I've Learned. Part 1, part 2 is the DVDs or videos. The missing link was part 2. This is where I talk about the retail model being incorporated into the business as a business plan. And then the last one was the plan that gets big results, which is what I've been really teaching you guys. But the plan that I discuss in here was the same, but only there's one extra component to it. We go four wide instead of 3 wide in this particular plan because of the way the compensation plan was at the time with a 20,000 point silver. And so this book is really a chronological account of my discovery process, my training, and my implementation in the field. And one of my consultants at the time, still my consultant, this fellow here in the picture, Antonio Raimondo, he really thought the trainings were the best that he had ever seen and felt compelled to publish them. So he asked me if I would allow him to do that, which he did. We had him transcribed. I paid for the videos to be transcribed. And then he went about getting a publisher to publish them and make them available. And I think they're still available. The publisher is Ex Libris, spelled Ex Libris. And I also believe they're available on Amazon. And I think that you can get them on Amazon as well. Anyway, so it's The Science of the Nikken Business. And Angelica has a copy now. She's reading. And I don't know what page you're on or what chapter you're on, but hopefully you're finding it's quite relevant, especially now in that you're in launch mode and launching a city. So
it is
we'll come back to
helping. It's making a lot of sense. Yes, of what you. I understand much better. It's like details.
Right. Cool. So anyway, if you haven't got a copy, if you haven't read it, you might want to. It does really share a lot of the information and the insights that I train, but in a comprehensive way. And then again, there's some case studies in there. Anyways, so the event in Sherbrooke was a business briefing, and so in that event, I covered. It was basically there was no product to showcase, with the exception of the necklace, which we did a few of the demos. I did show the video, the strength test video, but I used the PowerPoint that I've been talking about, that I've been sharing with you guys, and I found out that there's some people still don't know that it exists in the presentation, A Better Way, the newest version of A Better Way that has this image and others like it. If you're not familiar with that presentation, I suggest you get familiar with it. If you need help with that, I did say we were going to do a recording of it, and I did kind of a recording of it on the Aligning with Success call, maybe a couple of months ago. How to use that presentation, what each slide talks about. But I was really pleased with the presentation itself. We had this presentation on Friday broadcast in 3 languages. So I was speaking in English. Angelica was translating in Spanish for her Spanish-speaking audience, and then there was a gentleman at the back of the room translating in French simultaneously for the French-speaking audience sat around him. And we actually managed to get it all done within the 2 hours that we had set up apart for it. So that was pretty impressive. Sorry, I have an inbound call that I need to shut off. Anyway, so the goal of that presentation is to give people an understanding, first and foremost, of the value that Nikken can bring into their life personally, the value that Nikken can bring into the audience of the public at large, and then the opportunity to be associated with a community of people, expanding the Nikken legacy, expanding the Nikken organization. And I'll tell you, I'm bringing this up because so much of the conversation in the last 2 days, and even tonight on the call earlier, was about community, was about the need for us to reconnect and reestablish a sense of community in our own areas. And what did that in the past for us was live events. And there's no replacing live events. As much as Zoom has been a godsend and has helped us especially bridge the gap of when live events became a thing of the past, thanks to COVID, I do not believe we can avoid that matter any longer. I think live events is and will always be the glue of this type of business, of any type of business in the human business, in the personal development business, in the human emotion business. And so as I've been analyzing things as I tend to, and then put them into practice and see what happens, we also did this training on Saturday. And in the Saturday training, I used the other PowerPoint that I shared with you, where I really go into that zigzag and really talk about the rhythm of the business. And that's what I want to talk about tonight, was some of the things that are becoming the focal point at this moment in time for establishing Nikken in the North American marketplace. So we have a very robust online schedule of events. And I mean, it's great to have that kind of support, that your ability to plug new people or prospects into these events. But there seems to be a lot of events and no real understanding of how to use those events in a productive way. In other words, in a process. I've been sharing some conversations with Jeff Isom, and we're working on a strategy where you will see maybe a future version of the Nikken Connect, which has all these events on it, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever. But you're going to see certain events highlighted. And those events will represent the events that move someone through the zigzag. Again, let me remind you what the zigzag is. So the zigzag is comprised of 3 very distinct conversations. The first one being the why, and that happens on a one-on-one. That's not a live event conversation. That's a personal invitation for somebody to help you and to help themselves explore the possibility of Nikken as a solution to whatever it is you've uncovered about that individual. And Angela, I'm going to come back to you in a second. Actually, let's do that right now. You told me tonight that today you had an interesting experience asking people for help. Would you share that?
Sure. I hope my internet is good.
Yeah, we're good. Go.
Okay, perfect. So I had the idea of asking for help. Simply, no material, no nothing. Just saying, "Hey, I have a project going on, and I'm asking questions to people in order to make this project work. And if you like it, we can go further." So I would do the why conversation, as simple as that, and then take their name, their phone number or email, and their answers.
And you did that 3 times today.
Yes,
And how did it make you feel?
amazing.
And these were perfect strangers, right?
Yes. Well, one of them, no, the first one, no, but the 2 other women, yes. And I had, I really felt that I passed from being just like, hey, nice weather today. Yeah, superficial talk. And I really felt that those 2 women were like, wow, she really cares, like, about me deeper than just like, and so yeah, I really enjoy doing this, and I want to continue for sure. I want to
Yeah,
become an
and you
expert.
have 3 interested people to follow up with.
Yes, I'm going to show you. Because the three of them told me that they were interested in knowing more about it. I don't know if you can.
Yeah,
I
hard
have
to
my
read. But at the
anyway.
end of the
Yeah,
day, what would happen if you did this every day?
exactly. I thought that. I'm like, oh my god! Like I'm creating a movement here. You know, is me becoming an expert to do this, comfortable and very confident, and people letting people to know. I always compare it, this is, we all had a very bad experience with COVID, right? But turn it to the good side, like let's be making spreading love. That's how I see, like as soon as I touch or I see someone, they need to know that there's a Japanese philosophy which is amazing, and it's just so beautiful to be able to represent the to start people to get to know that there are 5 pillars of health and they are able to make it happen. So it's like,
It's interesting. You just reminded me of something, something that I've spoken of in the past regarding this first step in the process. To actually say to somebody, if they ask you what's it about, it's about a concept from Japan that's called the 5 pillars of wellness. Have you ever heard of it? And they say no. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions? And then you start there. So you're answering what is it about? See, it's not about Nikan, the products. It's not about the business vehicle. Not yet, it isn't. Right now, it's simply about them. And so you start off with, it's a concept called the 5 pillars of wellness. Have you ever heard of it? What's it about? It's a concept, or you could have approached those. This project is a concept from Japan. It's called the 5 pillars of wellness. Have you ever heard of it? No. And so there you go. You're saying something that they don't know, but it sounds intriguing, and it's from Japan, so that's always going to get attention. And so there's a starting point. But the point being, Angelica can now go out any day of the week and make new contacts. And she doesn't even need a list. She can just create it right on the fly the way she just did. And so imagine somebody who actually has a list, who's just getting started. They don't need to be taught how to go out there. And I want to say this again, for all of you guys teaching, for every one of you guys doing any kind of training, stop training new people to go out into public and talk to strangers. Stop it. They need to start with their warm market list. That's where the business starts, with a list. And that's the investment they need to make in the business, along with their products and along with the time to actually contact people and invite them into this process and to attend the dates of the calendar. That's their investment in Nikan. So training from a stage, from a Zoom or whatever, how to do network marketing in general is of no interest or value to somebody who's just getting started, who has a warm market list. Now, if that person came along and said, I don't know anybody in this city, I don't have any contacts on my cell phone, I was born yesterday, well, maybe then you might teach them what Angelica's doing. But most people know people. And so please, if you're going to teach a system, and that's the word that kept coming up over and over and over and over and over, is that we have to show people this is a system, that it's the system that makes it possible for them to have whatever they want. And of course, if you don't understand the system, you're not going to talk about it as a system. So there's the business, there's the products, and then the more powerful thing of all three is the system. The system makes it possible to create a turnkey business with incredible products into a network that spans the globe, makes an impact, and generates a lifestyle. Do we understand that? Because if we don't have that conversation happening in all the time we're talking with people, then you're just a direct sales operative. You're just a seller. You've not advanced. And that's probably why your network is not expanding. So if you want to have a network that's self-replicating, you've got to integrate the concept of a system into your psychology, into your communications, into your vernacular, into your presentations. That's why I do what I do. Why I spend time and money developing tools is not to sell product. It's to help people build a network. What this book is all about is about building a network. Now, you're going to need products in any business. You're going to need products or services to make any business work. We just so happen to have some pretty cool ones. You're going to need to have infrastructure to make a business work, especially if it's crossing boundaries like state lines or national lines. You're going to have quite an infrastructure. Well, we have that too, thanks to Nikken, an incredible infrastructure. But the business of Nikken is the network, the community, expanding the community of consumers, wellness enthusiasts, wellness promoters, and you ready for this one? Wellness partners. Partners are not wellness consultants. Partners are partners. The word partner means something, and partnerships are based on objectives. And so a partnership is forged when there's an objective. So when you're enrolling somebody, you don't know the level of commitment yet, so you can't call them a partner. They're just a consultant. When do they become a partner? When they become somebody committed to an objective. That's when you join forces and help them to reach that objective, a goal like silver, gold, whatever. The point is that partnership was only forged when there's an objective. And partnerships come and go based on those objectives. So the idea here is to keep creating objectives. But I'm saying this because we need to level up, guys. If you want to really have the spoils of an incredible Nikken business, like we're so grateful for our colleagues in Latin America who are thriving because they have built a thriving community. And they've done it mainly with live events, not Zoom events, although Zoom is supportive of the platform. It is not the mainstay. It's not the thing that has allowed them to continue to strengthen their community and be quite a community. Friendships were forged in Nikken, not on Zoom. Friendships were forged by people hugging each other and meeting each other with a regular basis. I have friends in Nikken all over the place. Many of you are my friends, not just my colleagues. Those friendships get made when we get to be together with one another in situations like over a meal. How many times have we gone to a Nikken event and shared a meal after that or before or during? All of those are the things that make relationships and friendships. And so to bring the human side of Nikken back, to bring the storytelling side of Nikken back, to bring the emotion which drives people to make decisions back. They don't make decisions based on whether it makes sense. They make decisions on emotions, and then they justify the decisions with what makes sense. Keep that in mind. Choosing to do Nikken, choosing to buy the products, it's usually an emotion. And so to bring the emotion, the emoting into Nikken, into your town, into your home, into this experience again, where it becomes a thriving group of people sharing each other's time and energy and space, we need to really look at what does it look like to reemerge from COVID with a live event scenario. What would that look like, and how would that be added to our current plethora of events? So I'm going to make some suggestions. Madeline, I noticed you unmuted, so I'm going to give you a chance to jump in here. Oh, you muted. Okay.
I
So-
unmuted because I was, although I don't mind adding something if I may. I am in Dave's class, and today I was out doing this exercise of what do you do contest. And it was just to speak to as many people that you didn't know, asking what their occupation is. So whoever has the most different occupations on their sheet in an hour is going to win a contest. And so I went to an ice cream store. So before I went in, this young couple was sitting as I got out of my car next to me. So I stuck my head in and I asked to do a favor. Well, she's ready to have a second baby. The little one's in the back seat. And by the time I left, Michael, they were willing to sign it. They're coming over to visit a wellness home. The little one in the back has a learning disability, and the father's tired from working in IT. And so, you know, I pulled my bottle out and I did the strength test. The little one became involved in wanting to do the same thing, you know, just the duplication. So anyway, got a good young couple there. And then I went inside and there was a long line in this ice cream store. And so I see a young man in a wheelchair with two little ones. And so while I was waiting in line, I got an airline pilot, you know, to sign it for me. And he said, "What do you do?" And so I said what I did before. We were to answer whatever questions. And he said, "Well, you need to go back to being a nurse," he said, "because we really need nurses who care." And I said, "Well, it's kind of a way that I'm able to practice what I do right now. I'm able to actually practice the definition of nursing." So I sit down and I followed this. I sat next to this young couple. He's in a wheelchair, two little ones. His 5-year-old was next to him. And so waited till I ate a little bit of ice cream and then leaned over and got my little clipboard out. But I said, "I'm curious, you know, before I ask you to sign this, I'm just curious how you got your spinal cord injury." And it was in a motorbike accident. And so anyway, he said, "Join us." And so by the time I was done, I again did the strength test, and with him being in the wheelchair, he's spinal cord from the nipple down. And so it pulled him off to a side. And I said, "Well, let's try something." So his little 5-year-old was on the other side with him holding on to the chair. I had him hold the phone on while I then repeated that with Dad. And he stood up and he said, "Will you do that on me?" And the other thing we found out, when I asked him how old he was, his birthday's in August. And I said, "What date?" You know, mine's the 5th. Well, his is the 4th. So I caught his attention with being that he's 1 day older than me. And so we had already established a relationship, but that little one got everybody else engaged. And the airline pilot came over from the other table and he said, "I made a mistake when I said to you before that you should go back to nursing." He said, "You're very good at what you do." And so everybody in this ice cream store, so 2 young couples are interested and very much engaged. And it was just doing what Angelica did, actually not expecting. I did more than what I was supposed to do just by asking a few more questions. But with both of them, I pulled out my business card, and my business card has the balance wheel on it, our original balance wheel that has the spirit in the center. And I asked both couples, and interestingly enough, the first young couple were downsizing into a
We're going a little bit too far.
Okay, well,
I need to get back onto my
just quickly on the 5 pillars. What I was expecting, because they said they wanted to buy a home, that they would have picked finances. She picked family. She's ready to have a second one with a disabled first little boy. And then he picked body because he's so tired working in front of the computer. And the other couple picked family, and rather than finances, or rather than body when he has a spinal cord injury. And so having that little wheel on the business card, I immediately, once I knew I had the attention, I said, "Well, I was really just supposed to get your signatures, but I said, do you mind, you know, if I share my business card with you?" And that's when we were able to set up a follow-up appointment time. But it was that balance wheel that I ended both of them with. So having that balance wheel on a business card, if you still have a business card, is a good idea.
or on a brochure.
Yep, or on a brochure. I didn't have that with me today. Normally I carry all of that with me, but I had it on my business card. So thank you for the
Okay.
time.
Thank you. So if we were to look at this as a system, and we keep coming back to that, so that it's something that we can teach others, okay, then the cornerstone of this is why somebody does anything. What's their motivation? It's the 5 pillars. So getting to that conversation, or getting to that question, has to be the prime directive as a first step. So if we were teaching this as a system, then this image would probably be the first image in the process. Okay, that's why it's there. And if you're skipping the most important step, you're never going to get to the finish line with these people and have anything of any consequence. So this process is perfect. That doesn't need any changes. It doesn't need any words. And I know everybody's always trying to fix something that's right. Doesn't need anything more than it already has. This has been perfected by somebody who has every bloody record in Nikken. Okay. So if you want to know how to do this business in a way that's consistent, professional, and successful, definitely follow the science. It's called The Science of the Nikken Business, that book, by the way. And I didn't even name it. So let's get back to this idea of formulating our system with the emotion being a very, very key cornerstone of this system. So what do we have right now in the lineup of Nikken events that really bring the emotion out? Notice how the story that Madeline was talking about drew you in. Okay. It's not facts that sell, it's stories. Facts tell, stories sell. So where in the Nikken process does a person get to feel and experience that? Do you have that programmed with every contact you make? Are you leading them to that step, or are you just making it up as you go, winging it? Or do you have a very clear process that you've invited them to explore Nikken, because you know that if they go through that process, they'll have everything they need to make the right decision for them. And that decision will have encompassed everything that Nikken has to offer. But you did it in a very simple way that it was easy for them to follow and follow you. So do you have such a process? Are you very clear when you get somebody on the phone to do an ABC call that the person you're asking as the A needs to know, where are you at in the process with this person? But if you're not at a step in the process, if you're not clear about that, if you called me up, I wouldn't know what to do with that prospect. So I would have to ask you first, where are you at in the process? And I'm referencing that zigzag, those 3 conversations, so I know where to move the person to next. Because my job is to keep them moving in the process. So the idea of having a clearly defined process is one thing. That's a system. Having the emotion in the process is critical. And I say this because I've noticed, at least I have, that a lot of the presentations we have are very informative. I want to know, what presentation can you bring somebody to, or what experience can you bring someone to where it's all about the emotion? Is there something you can point to? Is there anything right now that you know that I don't know that's really emotion driven? Madeline?
Well, the Humans Being More class always is, and there's those that are scheduled, and we can schedule our own. But Sherry has on Monday night storytelling. That's one of her half an hours. And the Sikokai and the master classes are always about storytelling. There's always a story in there. So I think many of our offerings provide, I think the learning someone else's story in the dyad and listening only and not commenting is a pretty powerful part of the Humans Being More experience. And I'm glad we're going back to more live ones. Again, we would break out on those Zoom ones, but hardly enough minutes to even do the dyad experience. And
okay. Let me refer to the HBM, Madeline, and the Seikokai Master Day. I'm glad you brought that up, because that actually does represent a step in the process. So looking at this chart, you can all see this chart. What can I point to on this chart that would be, that's Seikokai, or that's Master Day, or that's HBM? Anybody? You're all looking at the chart, right? You're all looking at the zigzag?
It looks like it's on the what line with the big event, right?
Correct, Dee. It's the big event. So The big event, you could replace the word big event with HBM, or you could replace the word with Seikokai, or you could replace the word with master date. In other words, it is a step in the process that has to happen if I want to convert a consultant into a partner, right? If I want to convert a consultant into a partner, it's a different level of commitment. So there has to be a different level of commitment to the event they're attending. A recording is not going to do it. It needs to be live. And the more difficult it is for them to get to it or to participate in it, the better. Some of us had to fly across the country to attend one of these events. Some of us had to take 2 days out of our life to attend one of these events. But I'll tell you, when you make that kind of a commitment to an event, that event has an impact on you equal or greater value. And if it's associated with Nikken as a business opportunity and you meet other people there that are Nikken business partners, then there's a higher probability that you're going to go from being a just consultant to somebody who means to actually play the game, a partner. So if I need an event to happen on a regular basis so that I can take whatever consultants have come into the pipeline this month and give them the possibility to step up into a partnership with me, an event that would help trigger that would be an HBM. An event that would help trigger that would be a Seikokai or a master day. And if you think about, or if you've listened to the audio, and I suggest you do again, called Silver's a Blast. It's on YouTube. It's called Silver's a Blast by Mike DiMuccio. You will hear an interview, me interviewing several people who had attained, in fact, there was 60 who attained silver in the 2 months that I was doing the interviews, but there was a few people on this call that were featured. You're going to hear what their story was going silver, and you're going to hear me extract from them the key steps, the process of what they did to go silver. And it all began, regardless of how long they were in Nikken. Some were only in Nikken a few days at the time they made the decision, and some were in Nikken a few months at the time they made the decision, even as far as 8 months. But they made a decision. The starting point of their silver run was a decision. And the decision was made after an HBM or after a big event. So if I need people to make decisions like that, then I need HBM. I need Master Day. I need Seikokai, and I need it when I need it. How often do I need it? How often do I want somebody to make a decision of that sort? Once a year? Once every 6 months? Or once they're in? How often does somebody get in Nikken? Every month somebody's new to the team. So every month I need a point to something to point to get that person to commit to attend, because that event is going to be the event that could trigger that person into being a partner. So that event has to be in my schedule. That event has to be part of a commitment to launching somebody. That event has to be something I leverage if I'm building this business like a system. Angelica, you have your hand up?
I have my little
Mm,
hand.
My
Oops.
question. Oh, it's okay, Marilyn. Thank you. My question is because the way I started is by having a wide conversation, and right away, like a couple of weeks after, I had the HBM, and then I had the how conversation, actually the
Who
presentation
are you
better
speaking
way.
to about? Is this your own
Uh,
personal journey?
yes, my personal journey.
Okay,
Yes.
back up then. Let's do that again. So your personal
I had
journey,
a wide conversation with Christian. We met
yeah,
one-on-one in restaurant,
yeah,
and then he did the strength test, and he
yeah.
got my attention. He
So he
invited me
completed
then to,
conversation number 1. He did the why really well. Go.
yes, and then he invited me to HBM, and the day after you were going to be at breakfast meeting presenting the better way.
I remember that.
And for me, to be honest with you, like, sometimes, as we have talked on the past, some people get like afraid of, like, oh, I have to buy something, or they are going to ask me to buy something without even um, getting to know. Like, for example, for me, HBM was wow. Wow. Like, it got me. Like, it gave me the reason, and yeah, like, to go. I was looking forward to meet you, because then I was like, oh, what is this? So it was, for me, it was perfect. So my question is, because there's a October 14th event of HBN coming,
In
should I,
Montreal, in Laval.
in Laval, should
Yeah.
I like do this same strategy that I had? Like,
You can answer that question.
I think it's a good idea.
Well, what would a big event do? What
Well,
would an
bring people,
HBM do for somebody?
well, people to become consultant, at least.
Well, I'll tell you what it would do. If they were already a consultant, it would drive them to wanting to be a partner. If they were not a consultant, it would drive them to want to know more about being a consultant. So the question then is not whether I should use HBM, it's what am I using it for? Am I going to use it to convert consultants into partners, or am I going to use it to create further interest? What would be the best version of this?
Well, now that you're saying that, for sure, as the call we had just before today, for sure, I will be continuing my daily why process, and bring people together in the house, so that I start having community, see people that I have had, like, different people that are interested, and new, they know and they see that it's not only one person, that I am looking forward to make this bigger, and it's not only, it's real, and something important. So for sure, I will be actually, of course, filtering the people that know, like, the how, go to the big event, and of course become, ideally before, a consultant, and then distinguish to become, and the HBM to become a partner.
Okay, so let me recap because you got it right now.
Okay.
So that initial conversation, that why is to compel somebody to want to know more about NECAN. Then they're going to be relying on you as to how you're going to deliver that. How are you going to give them more information? Are you set up? Are you ready? Do you know exactly what to do if somebody's interested? Or are you wondering? Do you know what video? Do you know what presentation? Do you know what? If you're wondering, you don't have a system. That's why you're not recruiting. If you're wondering what to do, you're not going to attract anybody. Why? Because nobody wants to be attracted. No one will be attracted to somebody who's in curiosity or in confusion. So you want to have something ready to go. If you were ready, then you would find somebody to work with. If you're not ready, you will hold off finding somebody to work with. That's the law of attraction at work within your subconscious mind. Think about it. If you don't know what to do with somebody, what are the chances you're going to sponsor somebody? You're going to send out all kinds of messages that won't be attractive. But if you are hungry to find somebody because you know exactly what you want to do with them once you find them, you want to launch them, you know exactly what that means, then you're going to be hungry for somebody to fit the bill. That means your radar is on. All the things that you do and say is going to be designed to attract that person, and you will attract that person. So if you don't have a process, if you don't know what to do, if you're not prepared to do it, like, do you even have any of these brochures on hand? Because if you don't, well, guess what? You're not in the system. Do you have any of the catalogs on hand? Well, if you don't, guess what? Do you know what digital tools you have at your fingertips? If you don't, well, guess what? If you're not planning to introduce people, if you're not planning to launch people, What are you planning? Or are you just hoping? What are you, a consultant or a partner if you're just hoping? A partner has a plan. A consultant, they just make it up as they go. So we're talking about building an organization. We're talking about being a beacon of attraction to build a following, an organization. And what that entails is a level of commitment to understand. You've got to understand, and then you've got to delve into it. So even if it means picking up strangers on the street in the middle of your day to create prospects, if that's what you got to do, then do it. If you don't have a contact list. So let's get back to this process. So the initial conversation, one sec, Madeline, the initial conversation got the interest to the point where a person now wants to know more about Nikken, which means you need to show them how Nikken can actually fill a void in their life. That's the how. The how means there's an opportunity to associate yourself with this company, these products, this platform, and our system to create a life and a lifestyle. Any part of this you can say no to, but don't say no to the products, because that's the very least you can do for yourself is benefit from the use of these products. Now, an event, by the way, they should, after a proper presentation, and I'm going to talk about that before we wrap up tonight, because I want to make sure we have a clear understanding of the emotional part of that that's going to create that desire to sign up as a consultant or to purchase the products. And for instance, you mentioned Sherry's Call Weekly. If Sherry's Call of Stories has an emotional component to it, it's not about the product. It's about the emotion that the products create. That is going to compel somebody to want the products. So don't sell the product, sell the emotion, sell the benefits, sell the experience they're looking for. The product is inconsequential. It's the mechanism. It's not the intention. Always stay focused on the intention.
The sizzle in the steak.
So yeah, it's the sizzle in the steak. So sell the sizzle, not the steak. They'll buy the steak if they smell the sizzle, you know, if they get hungry. So now you've got a customer or consultant, or at least a plausible customer consultant. Maybe they haven't signed up yet, but they're thinking about it. Getting them to an HBM at this point should lock it in.
Mike,
or a Seiko Kai or a Master Day. Sorry, Madeline, should lock it in.
No, Alicia's trying to get in. Do you ever, she's trying to get in and said she can't. And she wants to get in after the ABC last week. And I see where you
I don't know how to get her in.
Okay.
You need to give her the access code and the link.
I did.
Okay. So to get now to the partner side, there's still one more step. They need to understand what it means to be a partner. I mean, how can someone say I'm that if I don't even know what that is? You know, I'm an accountant, but I have no clue what accountants do. So there has to be some part of this conversation that helps them understand what it means to be a partner. It doesn't mean I signed up. I'm your next Royal Diamond. No, it doesn't. You can say that all day long. How many times I've heard that in my career? Hey, Mike, I want to introduce you to my next Royal Diamond. You know what I feel like saying? Show me your first, and then I'll think about whether you've got somebody as your next. Like, so the truth of the matter is there needs to be some conversation that says, hey, this is what it looks like if you're going to roll with this. You know, there's some things you need to do. You need to get some products. Now, not just any products. If you want to build this as a business, then you need to duplicate our business, which is like a franchise. Our business is like a franchise. So if you went to McDonald's and you said you wanted to buy a McDonald's franchise, or you went to a Weed Man and you wanted to buy a Weed Man franchise, do they say buy what you feel like? Or they say, here's the prescription, here is the recipe, this is what you need to do. And if you're not prepared to do this, go somewhere else. So a franchise has a very specific plan, a very specific way to get people going, because that's why they are successful, because they figured out how to make it work. They don't give everybody, you know, the option to do it their way, you know? So even Burger King, you can have your hamburger your way as a customer, but I'll tell you what, every Burger King has the same damn hamburger, every same way of making these things. So the franchise of Nikken, the business side of Nikken, the successful Nikken consultant has a plan. And that plan includes how to get somebody started. And I think you as a business person ought to have a certain level of expectation where your partners are concerned, not necessarily where the people who are customers or consultants, but certainly where a partner is concerned. So I designed this way of teaching that, and I talk about good, better, best as a way to get involved in the products in terms of their money investment. Good is a pack, better is 2 packs, best is 3 packs. And I would even add auto ship to that, because at the end of the day, every month we do have our qualifiers. At the end of the day, we should be consuming the Nikken nutritionals if we really are into wellness, if we're, really doing this. Like, seriously, at some point in time, when you start treating this like a business, you'll start to understand these things very clearly. So what does it mean to build an organization? It means to have people follow a plan, follow a system that they can follow, that they can duplicate. If it's just make it up as it goes along, you can't build momentum. You can't build strength. So have some standardization, some minimum things. Teach how, why, how, what as a process. Teach. A launch means a focused launch where you're going to put time in to contact and invite people every day, put time in to invite those people to a presentation every week, put time in to bring them to a major event, put time in for an ABC. These are time things that they need to set some time aside to make happen. Otherwise, if they're just doing it when it's convenient, it's not a system. And if it's not a system, it's not a business. It's just a hobby. You might have a little direct sales business going on, a little bit of sales here and there, but building an organization is about duplication. So show me your plan for creating 3 partners and 5 loyal customers, and show me how to do that, to do it this week or this month. If you've got that, you got a franchise. If you've got the tools to make that happen, you got a franchise. You have the tools. I did. Do you have them? So we're talking about a system, and that's the key. HBM, Seikokai, Master Date, they are part of the system because they serve a purpose for somebody who understands its purpose in the system. It's to help convert somebody who's not yet fully involved to somebody who's a lot more involved. The weekly rhythm is to turn interested contacts into customers or consultants. Trust me, if after a storytelling session with Sherry, they're not willing to buy the products, at that point in time, you got to wonder, right? Because they're hearing the stories, they understand the emotions involved, and if they're not prepared to make that commitment, they're not going to make a commitment to be involved in this as a business. They're not going to be sharing this with other people. So the steps tell you or filter where people are at. And so let's get back to what I wanted to get back to, which was the emotion, the weekly. I think there's something that we need to do weekly that we're not doing consistently. And that is inviting people to an event where they experience emotion, the emotion of Nikken. This live event that I did on the weekend, there was one session. It wasn't a session, it was a dinner. Angelica, myself, and 2 others went to a dinner, and we celebrated being together. And what brought us together was, of course, Nikken, but we celebrated being together. And that dinner had more of an impact, I think, on all of us than all the sessions of the weekend. Why? Because it's personal. And Nikken is personal. You've got to get personal with somebody before it becomes something meaningful for them. So don't be afraid to get personal. Madeline, what you did with those people, brilliant. I mean, you got personal, and people noticed. That captain, that pilot noticed and said, wow, like, if that's what you do, keep doing what you're doing, because that's brilliant.
Thank you.
And that's the side of Nikken that needs to show up again more often. So what event could we rely on every week? What event could we all together rely on every week, that we all together come on every week, that we make a commitment?
Aligned with success. Aligned with
Well,
success.
this is one, and I'm doing a lot of talking because I'm always training, but I'm not. That's not the event that I'm talking about. I'm talking about an event where where somebody comes, if I had a guest on this Zoom or even this live event, they would want to know how they can get these products. So we used to have a thing called Wellness Preview, a live event called Wellness Preview. Before COVID, that was sort of the standard. You would have an in-home or you would have a hotel meeting or something like that where you gather people. And who came? Locals from the community of Nikken consultants, locals that they brought to the event that they were introducing Nikken to. And they got the full-on experience. They got to hear people's stories. They got to shake hands with new people. They got to feel like they were part of a community. They got something that they could not possibly get if they were sitting at home on a computer. So what could we do? What could you do in your hometown that begins that process? What could you do?
We can start in our homes.
Yeah.
Start in our homes, in a coffee shop, at a hotel, where.
Yeah, you could. You absolutely could. In fact, that would be the way to start. Start doing these presentations, these meetings, these gatherings again. What Angelica is doing is she's starting a community in Sherbrooke. She is going to build a huge community in Sherbrooke. Now, it's not going to stop there. It's not going to be limited to Sherbrooke. Pretty soon, it'll expand outside of Sherbrooke, and she'll have people in Laval, and she'll have people in Montreal, and she'll have people in other parts of the country and so forth, because that's how it works. But it starts somewhere. So I'm suggesting, as part of your system, your weekly gathering, that you figure out what it looks like, what it feels like, what you want to make the emotion, the experience for somebody to be like, and commit to it. If all you got right now is Sherry storytelling, then be on it every week. If there's another event that you're tied into that you feel brings out the emotion, lock in on it. What I'm going to suggest you do is maybe it's a combination. Maybe it's a live event and a Zoom event so that you can cover more ground, if you will. But I want you to think in terms of emotion, sharing stories. And I know one thing we can share in private is things that we can't necessarily share in public, especially when it comes to these products. So again, what could you do in your town, in your home, in your space that creates a rhythm? I'll give you another example of a weekly rhythm. The Catholic Church. Every night you pray before you go to bed. You do the daily rhythm. But on the weekend, on Sunday, it's church. And so for that hour, we go there, we meet other people in the congregation, we reaffirm our commitment to our faith, and we're surrounded by people of like mind, and it gives us a sense of community, belonging, and strengthens our connection to that whole concept. Well, if Nikken doesn't have such a thing for you, then how do you feel connected to the community? We need to give people the sense of community here. And that means building a community of Nikken in your community and start to bring people into that experience. And your business is going to flourish. If any one of you on this call right now can build a Royal Diamond business right in the town you're in. Right in the town you're in. Do you know, one of the things I was asked on the weekend was a comparison of consultants here and there. And I drew the organization. I thought, this is a great way to draw it. You know the circles that I draw? The concentric circles here. This slide on the PowerPoint. Let me find it first and I'll share it. Where are you? There. Okay. So let me share this slide. It's this one here, the circle. Come on. There. Okay, the concentric rings. And I was explaining the idea of network marketing, the idea of leverage, the idea of doing a little bit, but teaching others how to do the same thing. It's doing something and teaching others how to do that thing. And then when you do that, you're able to create a growing organization. So you do something and then you teach others how to do it. And then you teach them to teach others how to do it. And now you've got this ongoing thing. What is the thing you're teaching them to do? So that's why you need a system. I need to teach them how to do an intro, how to create interest. I need to teach them how to present Nikken or what tools to use. I need to teach them why the schedule of events matters. I need to teach them how to launch somebody. So these are things I need to teach, which means I need to learn and apply. I learn, apply, and then I teach. And that's how we create a system that can be duplicated. Only a system can be duplicated. Personalities can't, people can't. Only a system can. So now if I built a system, if I showed you in 30 days how to find 3 partners and 5 customers, that's what I showed you. And that's the only thing I ever learned how to do, but I showed you how to do it. Now the next generation would get born. And then if I work with you to teach your newest people how to do what I just did and what you just did, then the next generation would get born, and on and on and on it would go. And this whole chart would get filled out and you can see the income that it represents. So why not just learn how to do this? Because it's not that complicated. And when you don't have a program or a process, it gets complicated because you're making it up as it goes along. And you can't teach that. You can't teach that. But you can teach a process. You can teach a system. So I was showing this and I said, you know, you get paid up to 6 generations, but I got people way below 6 generations. So I drew an arrow going down from the 6th generation over here, going further out. And I said, let's say this is you right here. You're just joining Nikken right now. Well, that means you can build 6 generations of your own. And the volume that you could build in your 6 generations could be bigger than mine. So this idea of only the people at the top make the money is garbage. It's just nonsense that people tell themselves to excuse themselves from actually doing anything, to pacify themselves, the pacifists. But the people who study this know, wait a second. Do you know I have a downline making more money than me? I do, me, Mike DiMuccio, in Mexico. How's that possible? Because the volume coming in her 6 generations is more than the volume that I'm getting paid in my 6 generations, even though she's part of my organization. That's our compensation plan. So the people at the top make all the money? No, the people who build the organizations make the money. And what I'm teaching you is how to build an organization, not how to direct sale. You'll never do $1 billion in sales direct selling if you did direct sales every day the rest of your life. But if you build an organization, you could. So what's more important to you, direct selling or building an organization? I mean, it's a choice. And this is what I'm teaching. I'm teaching if the organization part of it interests you, then a system has to become part of your study. You have to study and teach and duplicate a system. So this is what I teach. That's all I've ever taught. I'm not going to teach anything else. So I drew this arrow and I said, so you're starting here and you're building 6 generations, and we're going to help you do it, by the way. On top of that, you got 6 generations of people who are going to help you do it. So you got a board of directors who are really willing and able to help you do it. So get started now. The only question that you should be asking is there really a potential for me to build 6 generations? Like, is Nikken not already saturated? Doesn't everybody already have Nikken products? Isn't everybody already in Nikken? After all these years you've been on this planet? I said, well, I gotta excuse myself because I'm going to tell you a horrible truth. I've been at Nikken 33 years. And from what I understand, we have less than 1% of the market that knows we exist. So in my 33 years, I've done a terrible job at telling the world about Nikken. That's why I need you. We need help. We really need help. And I also said, there was a character, you guys might remember this guy, the guy who owns Richard Branson, the guy who owns Virgin Atlantic. He came to North America to sell cellular phones under the Virgin brand. And when he came to North America, he was interviewed by all the bigs, the stations and so forth. And they said, you know, you're a little late to the party. The market already has 65% spoken for. So 65% of the American population had already a cell phone plan. And you know what his answer was? He said 35% of the population hasn't made their decision yet, hasn't made up their mind yet, and I want a piece of that 35%. 35% hasn't made up their mind yet. Tell me, what percentage of the population has made up their mind about NECAN or about wellness or total wellness? You think it's 65% have already decided? Not even close. So we have you'll never see the end of this in your lifetime. So we have all the opportunity in the world. There's more people in the population today than when I started. So we can't even keep up to the growth of the population. So if you started today and started building your 6 generations today, you could build an organization that's far more powerful and more capable than anyone that I've created. And I'll give you one other thing to think about. My son went to a party on Thursday, I think, Thursday or Friday. They rented a boat. They got all dressed up in like Great Gatsby outfits and stuff like that. It's my son, Michael. And the guy who was holding this party on the boat, and then they went to this other place, which is a rooftop lounge in Toronto. So they spent the whole day on the boat, wasn't cheap. Then they went to this rooftop lounge, had the whole place to themselves. And the guy who was doing this party just crossed 10 million followers, and he's my son's friend. And my son is up at 6 million, getting up there. He's going to cross his 10 million soon enough. So, and my son's only been doing this since 2020, since COVID hit. Okay. So in 3 years' time, he's amassed 7 million or 6 million followers. This other guy, about 10 million followers. So in all of NECAN right now, all of NECAN globally right now, we don't even have 1 million followers. We don't have 1 million members in this community. And my son, who just shot past us, who, by the way, made more money last month than me with his gig. So you think about this. What's true about today that wasn't true when I was doing this building is that we now have the internet. We now have technology. We now have the means to communicate faster and further than ever before. But we've also lost a lot of the personal touch because of it. So if we can combine us here on this call, in our system, if we can combine the combination of this digital world with the personal touch of live events, we have a powerful 1-2 punch, the ability to convey information digitally at the speed of light, but also the way to make that information come to life in a meaningful way with our live events. That is going to empower people to make decisions. That is going to accelerate the growth of our business and our community. We're in a situation today where a person joining today could make all of us look small. So I'm speaking to that person. That's who I'm talking to. And if it was somebody on your team that was on this call, good for you.
Can I introduce Alicia? She did a 3-way call with Mike last Friday night and his daughter because of her interest in the law of attraction. And she had just worked like a 12 or 14-hour day and was in a parking garage. And tonight, as a reminder to have her get on, she just finished doing 4 classes and was having trouble getting in, which is why I was interrupting you twice. But she got in and she's here. And again, she's coming home from teaching 4 classes. So that's the kind of commitment that you talked about earlier.
Yeah, this is a person to keep an eye on, Alicia. Hi, Alicia.
Welcome, Alicia.
Oh my
Nice
God.
to
Hi,
have you
everyone.
here.
39 years old, a mom of 7 plus 2 stepchildren.
Talk about a powerhouse. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she hasn't even gotten started yet. So Alicia, I gave you my number, I'm at your disposal. So
Another nurse, Dee. She's a couple hours short. Yeah, Dee is a nurse as well. She's a couple hours short of a doctorate in, she's a certified nurse practitioner, but has her own holistic wellness business. And she's going to be closing down is it 5 years, Alicia? You share with Herbalife, a storefront. which meant employees, right? That wasn't a multiple.
Yeah,
store.
traditional
yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Well, Alicia, thanks for joining the time that you have. And I don't know what you heard here, but I hope what you heard here was positive, and you understand that we're in a very interesting time and a very interesting place. So I would like to encourage you, since we're way over time now, to use this call, to leverage this call. So ask yourself, who would benefit from this call? If I had a member on my organization, who would I put on this call? And I'm hoping you're going to say partners, people who really need the business edge and the business know-how and will really respect this kind of information. And so what are the other calls for? Well, some calls are to help people become customers, stories. Some calls are to help people lock in to want to be a partner, HBM, Seiko Kai, Master Day. If you know what the tool is for and you use the tool correctly, it's going to produce a result, and it's the result that you're after. So understand that these tools are here to serve you and to help you build a business, provided you understand how to use these tools and to do them in a way that's progressive and successive. You know, I wouldn't bring somebody to this call if they've never heard the words NICAN. So there's a time and a place for these things. That's the system, the process of information. So study the stuff that I've put out. Again, you can get this at lifeandbalancetools.net and do so. The PowerPoint presentation of what I did on Saturday or Friday, the business presentation, which encompasses a lot of these visuals. If you haven't got it, send me a text message. I've posted it on all the WhatsApp chats because it's a huge file, because I embedded a video. I might just release it again without the video. The video is really cool. It's the NICAN video, but yeah, so, you know, get the tools, tool up, be sure that you know what tools to use and what they're for. And if we need to have that call, that's probably the call we need to have next is, okay, Mike, can we be more specific now? What tools do you use in this conversation? What tools do you use in this step, and what tools do you use in this step? And that way you'll really have a clearly defined process and knowledge of the tools. By the way, as an FYI before I leave, the tool that I use for digital the how conversation is the royalalliance.com/a-better-way. That's like an online brochure. So the knowledge of NICAN, the introduction of NICAN, including the videos on that page, but that's not emotion. That's not a guaranteed connection with somebody. That's still them learning on their own. I want to have them meet you. I want them to see who you are. I want them to hear your voice. I want them to hear your passion for NICAN, because that's what's going to convey the realism of NICAN in their life when they see it in yours. So that's the call I want to have. That's the one that I want to organize, where it's story time and it's real stories about the NICAN opportunity. So look forward to that, because that's coming. I'm not sure when I'm going to launch that yet, but we're working on it. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for joining. Sorry if I ranted a little bit, but that's just me.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again, Alicia. Safe travels.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Angelica. Bye-bye.